Is there room for me? I'm Quincy.
And I'm Deinye.
So when do we increase the volume?
Please, we're not having sound problem.
And increasing that.
Oh,
Anyways, I was really trying to be cool, you guys. I've seen this thing on YouTube where like you just like do sometimes like you do a whole interview but like in ASMR and then it's like
that is. I think that'll be tough.
and then like
How have you been? How have you been since last month?
I've been good. Um
Uh,
what has happened? What month are we in?
It's February. Did you fall in love again?
February.
I mean, like,
Well, last month was February.
it was February, now it's March.
Valentine's Day. Nothing happened.
Nothing.
Not a singular thing.
But something happened like 2 days after Valentine's Day, yeah?
What?
I don't know.
Oh, actually, something did happen like the weekend of. So I was in Toronto on the 17th
That
of
is my
February.
anniversary.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's also. Anyways, I was in Toronto. I was in Toronto on the 17th
Yeah.
for my for I don't know why I feel weird.
Calling her your sister.
Like calling her my sister-in-law. I actually feel more comfortable calling her my
Then
sister.
call her your sister. Like, all of that stuff is semantics.
From she TBHA for
Mm-hmm.
my sister's um
Event.
conference. So it's basically like for black business owners and creatives in Canada. So we had a conference and just like I got to meet so many like like content creators, but then also business owners, people like in I don't know if you know if you've heard of Ofuri,
The
I've heard the
brand,
name.
the brand,
swim. Is it swim?
the I I think she does swim, but then she also does like other things. Let me actually just fact check myself before I misquote. But um she was like one of the panelists and there was also like
Ama?
Alma from
See,
she was there.
influencer.
She was there. I was low key high key very much starstruck, but then trying to like keep my composure.
So you got to meet her?
I didn't have, but I got to like give out samples of actually not samples, but like gift boxes from their skin to different people, and Alma reposted me. I was like,
Oh, I know this story.
Jesus is Lord, what is going on?
That is.
So that was fun. That was really fun. Oh my god, I can't wait for next year. And I heard from the grapevine that next year may or may not be somewhere else.
Oh, like
Um,
outside of Canada.
we may or may not be touring Canada, but
Oh,
that's
so cool.
that was so fun. So like we drove in on like the Saturday morning, spent the day in Toronto. I also ran into my actual sister at the conference.
With the one that's
The one that's
in Nigeria.
yeah,
You
basically.
didn't know she was in town.
I didn't know she was in town until she saw like my Instagram story. Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, I'm in Toronto, BT Dubs." I'm like, "Oh, that's so cool." And so I saw her.
Wait, sister.
She said, "Wait." Like after you finish the whole spiel, it's like
Like as for like not,
not so not
cousin
not
sister.
soul sister, like
My
actual.
actual sister.
She just kind of swung
So
through.
I thought you were the only one in Canada. Okay, well they don't live in Canada.
no, so one lives in Alberta, and one lives in actually two live in Nigeria. But one of the ones in Nigeria has been in Alberta with my other sister for like a couple months. So like I just assumed she was still there, and there
Oh,
was
that
no
makes
plan
sense. I
for
thought
her
you
to
meant
go.
she was just like randomly from Lagos
Oh no
in
no no. She was
Toronto.
she was already in Canada, and yeah, I didn't realize that she was in. I think she also came into Toronto that same day. It was actually like a really cool month. We also had our MFH gala.
Mm.
You were not there, were you?
No,
You
he
were.
was there.
Yeah, it was.
Front and center.
For
Or not front.
Yeah, kind
Side
of.
and
Yeah,
center.
front and center.
Side and
literally,
front.
Front and center.
literally fantastic. I remember. So that was also really fun.
Yeah.
I came a little bit early. I wasn't like part of any of the planning or like, but it was nice to feel like useful. So I have
I
to
see when they
explain.
came and started decorating with us.
That was fun, yeah.
We were trying to
It's
put the
always
hearts.
nice to have Danya's presence, yeah, like in terms of decoration and all that. She's very
Yeah, very hands-on. Yeah.
It was nice. It was actually really nice. And yeah, I don't know. I felt like it felt nice to not just like sit somewhere, and it felt nice to be. I got to talk to some people
but you'd never talk to, yeah.
that I never met.
We didn't even
Wait,
go to
I'll
the same
never saw her
church.
church. It's like, okay, we'll talk about that.
No, I don't think I've never. I don't remember ever seeing them at church. But then
Oh,
again,
okay.
like
It's
I'm not
possible
real
because
like
a couple of new
authority.
people.
Yeah. So there were some people, but then I also got to like talk to some people that I know, but then have never like really engaged with.
Mm.
Yeah, so that was really fun. Although like I was my social like literally just like being in the crowd depleted my social battery like so quickly. Cause like literally as soon as we started serving food, I could feel like the migraine coming.
Are you for real?
I'm actually like so like after the food finished, I went I went to sleep. Like literally like I went to the car and slept for
You know, someone was asking where's Daniel?
cool.
I can't remember who. Maybe it was even Lemi. I was like, oh yeah.
That's
She's
a good
Wait, were
question.
you around for the couples AMA like towards the end?
No. I left like before the main speaker, Dr. Jackie. I left before then because like it was so bad that like I could feel like the blood pulsing behind my eyes. Oh yeah.
So like, is
It's
that
just like
social anxiety or like what's
no,
it's
just
it's not like so when as an introverted person, basically like I guess the easiest way that I have heard somebody describe the difference between introverts and extroverts is that um people like introverted people are like um they present from like an inner world. So everything comes from inside. Everything is like in their heads. It's like more thinking. Basically, like you live in your head more and you're okay just like being by yourself and with yourself. Whereas like extroverted people are more like outward facing and they're more um like they come alive more in like a social
so
thing.
they
They like talk,
get their energy when
they get
from
energized.
other people
Yeah,
and
from
then
like
deplete it
relating.
by themselves, and then introverts get the energy from themselves and deplete it when they're with other people.
Oh, and I also had my wisdom teeth removed. So that was my first ever surgery that I've ever done.
Well, you know what they say about getting your wisdom teeth removed? Basically, the idea is that now you've reached a level of wisdom where you don't even need your wisdom teeth anymore, so you can do without them.
so because I don't have uncle. That's about your
How was your anniversary?
Oh, okay. February was great. February was nice. Anniversary was pretty quiet. I thought I would go to Toronto and be at your sister's event, but
Plugged in, BT dubs.
yeah, but yeah, didn't quite go that way because yeah. So my wife's brother just moved. In fact, moved the day before anniversary, so that would usually be our like stopgap for the children. And they were stressed out with that. And he was traveling as well the week after for work, so it's like, okay, let's not stress them, and we just thought, okay, we'll stay at home. So what we did was we just stayed at home. I mean, we had the gala, but then for the anniversary itself, we're at home, and
It's nice to rest sometimes.
yeah, it was nice. And then we had, our producer Niola and
Oh
Chef
yeah?
Atom
for
come,
them suya.
Chef Atom come around, and yeah, they,
Some services might work.
I don't know, but yeah. So it was nice. It was nice, calm, and the rest of the month was good. So yeah,
Yeah.
looking forward to the rest of March. But
Okay.
Okay, so we can go into
icebreakers.
yeah, oh yeah. Icebreakers and
Okay. So today's icebreaker is just going to be just a question, and the question is: share a testimony of God's faithfulness in your life. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, I woke up today. That's God being faithful to us. We thank God. But like, I want to hear like just a big testimony, something that you never thought would happen, or something that you've been praying for, and then you just not give up hope, but you just like put it in God's hands, and then the results came out, and it just made you smile.
Does it have to be recent?
No, no, in your life, just
Okay, my life.
entire life, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's good. I think it's just that.
I feel like I just finished talking.
It's like
Yeah, you just find a way to. Because you'd always just finish talking if I stop then. Anyway, let's see. Hmm. Um, well, I think this is interesting because it's something that happened like a couple of times. So I remember being in primary school and thinking about like I saw my brother's experience. My brother's like 5 years older than me in secondary school, and he went through a lot of like hardship. You know how it is with boarding schools, some boarding schools in Nigeria.
Mm.
And I wasn't really familiar with private schools at the time because I just wasn't exposed to that. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, God, it'd be nice if I don't have to go through bullying and all that stuff. And I was thinking that was a bit far-fetched, but I just kind of like put it out there. And then when I went to secondary school, I went to boarding school, but then it was a private school, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And like bullying was not tolerated, and obviously it wasn't like the sort of thing my brother went through or had to go through. And that was nice. So that was one, you know,
Good hearing you.
yeah. And then when I was in secondary school as well, and I saw like universities and like stuff about cults and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go to one of these universities and be like tried with cultism because I wouldn't be able to say no because I might be killed.
Mm.
Um, and then I also didn't want to go to school abroad because I was worried about racism. Maybe I should not have included that in my thinking.
You will be somewhere different.
I'd have been somewhere different. But I guess all things work together. But I didn't want to go to, I didn't want to have that, and I didn't want to. And at the time as well, like private universities were not really a thing, um, where I come from. And
Oh yeah, that time.
and and by the time I was getting into university, there was that. And funny thing is, for secondary school and university, I was in the third set of both establishments that I went to. So somewhere in my mind is like it's almost like when I started to think about it, I was like, okay, you know what, let me set something up for you. And
Mm.
but yeah, that's something that I think about, and I think, wow, I should think more positive thoughts that way, and maybe I'll have a lot more.
Oh, what's the word? Manifesting.
Yeah, manifesting, yeah, that sort of thing. But yeah, that is that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That's my testimony. Yeah, you.
No, that's actually so cool.
Mm.
Just like God hearing.
Yeah,
And it's not like you're necessarily like praying about it.
yeah.
Per
It's not
se.
like God, if you don't do this.
Yeah. And it's like in the little things.
Mm. Yeah, God is
Yeah.
very attentive to details.
Grateful. Yeah. So for me, um, it's actually crazy. Well, crazy is a strong word. But for me, it's like it's proven to me that God, it's like God proving himself to me that like he's like present and he hears and like he's faithful. Cause like you know how like I guess growing up, this is so long-winded, but like growing up as like a pastor's kid or like growing up in church, you like obviously you're surrounded with like testimonies and like God being good to people and God doing things for different people. And so like you know it as per like head knowledge and you know that oh this is a characteristic of God, but then God actually like now doing it for you, it's like different because now like it's like you now have like a another authority as to be like I know who God is because he has done it for me, basically. And like he has shown himself to me, not like to the people around me. So my own for me is this this was like last year when um my brother-in-law and his wife found a place, and they were telling me, and I'm just gonna say me and Lemo um about it. And it was so crazy because like the place was, it was like, it's like super far away, but like the price points was so good. The like lot size was really, and also actually let me like backtrack. So like last year when me and Noah were on vacation, and we're just like talking about our like top three things that like we have to have in the next house that we get. And like I said my three things, he said his three things. And it was crazy because like when Lemo's brother told us about it, it's like literally all the six things that we said
There.
were there, like in that house, or in that lot, or like in the property or whatever. Customizable. The location is like exactly what I wanted. The size, everything was good. But then now, okay, it starts to, where's the money from? Where's the money going to come from? Because like we didn't necessarily want to sell this house, and like we're also not sure about renting it out because like real estate market in Ottawa is not, I guess renters market in Ottawa is not very conducive to owners. And then Lemon now said one thing and was like, God will, for me, I didn't have any hopes. It was just like, I don't want to put my hopes up and then now get like
Get it dashed.
disappointed.
Yeah.
I don't want to like put all my like, I don't want to put all like my eggs into this house and like be invested in it and start planning out how it's going to look and then we cannot pay for it. Um Only for like literally, I think it was like on a Tuesday we're coming back from a viewing for another property, and the next day, Wednesday, we're at Lemo's brother's house. And like literally it was a Wednesday, 1 o'clock. We had like all hands at work, and they announced that they're going through like another investment round. So that basically means that I can sell part of my shares. I could sell part of my shares
To people that want to buy.
to people that want to buy because they're like getting more investors. And I was just like, I I was like, bro, wait. I went to go and do the numbers for like how many shares I had and how much like I was going to sell it at. And like it literally covered the down payment for the house.
Wow.
And I was like,
Your shares are worth that much. That's what I got from all of that.
This is like,
and it just like, and he covered it. And I was like, yo, well, like it covered that and like actual savings that we have. Um, but yeah, it was, I feel like seeing it happen, and Lemon was like, it was so funny because he was just like confident. I'm like, are you hiding money from me? Type of energy. Is that something I don't know about? He's like, no, but like God will do it.
God is able to do.
God is able to,
My
like,
God.
if we're going to, if this is what we're supposed to get, if this is what we're supposed to have, then God will
God
make it
will
happen.
Right.
And God made it happen in the span of just like a couple weeks. Like we signed the papers for the house. No, not
with
this
this
house, but like not this house, the next house.
House. Okay.
And like we did not have to. We're not like, we don't have. We can basically have like freedom to do whatever we want with this house, sell it, rent it, whatever, and like we're still able to keep the next one.
So this can be like you guys like studio.
The whole house, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, just give me the
Just dash
me here.
LOL. So yeah, that's like for me. That's like a huge.
Oh, that's really good.
So that's amazing. Though.
That's very
That's
good.
really
That is amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
I came to that testimony, eh?
Well, that's very good though. Thank you for testimonies. God is very faithful.
God is.
So now,
So yeah, for this month's conversation, we're talking about dining with Jesus. So what does dining with Jesus mean to you?
I don't know. what does dining with Jesus mean to me? Like I think about like all the times in the Bible and like the I keep saying the quality of people, but like who Jesus invited to his table, or like who Jesus associated himself with. I feel like sorry, my gum is so associated himself with,
Mm.
and just like the idea that Jesus does not discriminate, and it's not like you must be this type of person, you must have prayed today, you must believe in God, you must be like holier than thou, you must not have sinned.
Basically, there's room for you at that table.
There's always room for you, regardless of like where you come from, who you think you are, what you've done, what has been done to you. Um, just like whatever it's and for me, dining with Jesus is like just the idea of acceptance and Jesus like wanting to hear your life story and wanting to be a part of your life from like the day to days to what you're struggling with to um like things troubling you, why you live the way you do. And it's not coming from like a place of like, oh, do this is how you should be living, and it's more coming from a place of like Jesus just like wanting communion
Right.
and like you speaking as you are.
From the heart.
Yeah.
I think that's a rather interesting perspective, and like I think about the way the setup at the church I used to go to in when I was in Germany.
Mhm.
Um, they we used to have of course dinner parties where our like connect groups, so they called them dinner parties, and what it was everyone came together and it was like putting the food together and then actually eating, and in that setting it was easier to have conversations because you're not just going to it's like those okay there was that, and then after services like church on a Sunday, after each service there was like oh wait like three four locations that people could go have lunch at, so it would be like oh if you want Mexican it's this, if you want Italian it's this, if you want,
Actually, a really cool idea.
so everyone goes and has a meal with a group of people, and in that setting instead of just like a conversation with just random conversation where it's like you're new in the church and you're just like having to like everyone's just like so where are you from, what are you doing,
The normal question.
what do you work, it's you're eating and it's like oh this and then yeah this, and you
You
can connect it to something else and then this, and then of course with the dinner party
it's like deeper connection.
there's a deeper connection and people can feel like oh my gosh I've known this person, because you can find ways in which you connect with this person or the other person over a meal, because the meal is a distraction and there's a common like denominator for people to connect, right? And I guess there's a reason why when people want to go on dates they
Go for dinner.
go for dinner,
Although people like now say that going out to eat is not an ideal date anymore.
I mean it's not necessarily, but it just kind of gives the opportunity to
Get
break
to
the ice
yeah.
without all of the what's it called, um
Like awkwardness.
awkwardness, thank you, that comes with just trying to yeah, oh tell me about yourself, it's just like that's just
You know,
very
it's actually so funny
random.
about me. I don't know if like anybody else can relate, but I don't like eating in public.
I used to be like that. The first time I ate in public I was like why do I have to eat in public, uh and then I
I
went to
re-
boarding school. I almost died.
I really don't like it. That was a struggle for me in boarding school
Oh my
too.
gosh, the first oh
Like I always used to sit like behind like everybody backing me. So
I
like
didn't have a choice. We're all in like we had our tables and everyone kind of faced everyone. And it was just always so awkward for me, and I'll just eat up and be done before people had their third spoon. And I'm
yeah.
like, days, what am I supposed to do? Just look at them eating. I'm not full yet.
I don't like eating people. I like but like for me in boarding school it was like six per table. And so like I remember like literally where it was. It's like just at one end of the hall, and I would be sitting, then the door would be like this way, and I would be sitting
Just
like in one of these two chairs, and it was usually like the same set of people in my class.
right.
So like I would get comfortable enough. So I guess like if I'm comfortable enough with everybody around me,
Then you're good.
I'm fine to eat. But just like in general, I don't like I would not eat I wouldn't eat with somebody I've just met for the first time.
Or just go to a restaurant to eat by yourself.
I also cannot do that.
And you know, that's the most awkward
I
thing.
also can't do
Like you have
that.
to be like super hungry.
Or super brave. That's
Okay.
actually something I would like to like be
Like
able to do.
try.
Or like just go to movies by myself.
I mean, movies by yourself, like you can,
I'm never
but
doing that
like a restaurant, like everyone's like in pairs or in a group, and then you're just there.
by yourself.
But but food. I mean, let's not let maybe dinner is like one way to put it, but then it could be a picnic, it could be a thing, it could be coffee, whatever.
Yeah.
Just having something to hold on to if you're a bit anxious just gives you
Yeah,
something to
some yeah,
distract from the
yeah,
awkwardness generally. And
yeah.
so when I think about like what you said about dining with Jesus and just generally dining with Jesus, I think Jesus's approach to that, because it's like everywhere, it's just like breaking that ice. Like, I mean, when he fed 5,000 people, it's just like, okay, we've talked. I know you guys want. Okay, fine. You know what? Where's the food? Let's make it happen. And I was thinking as well because like March is what this it's Good Friday and it's Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
Before Jesus died, he had the Last Supper, and it was just like a way of getting again together with his disciples for the last time before he will go. And then after he rose from the dead, when he met those people on the road to Emmaus, right? So that's called the two.
I don't
Yes, two disciples he met on the way that he opened scripture to them, blah blah blah, and then they got to the house and they broke bread, and it was
know.
when they broke bread that he.
Yeah, okay.
It's amazing that food was involved there as well. So like I think Jesus kind of understands.
Jesus may or may not have been a foodie.
I mean, I think he
That's
maybe
my
he might not have been, but he might have understood that the average human being is, and I mean, just understanding what the role that food plays in a human being's life. It's just like okay, you know what? I know how to get
point.
to your heart.
But then it's true. I mean, like, but like, it's. I feel like it's that idea though is cool because um, it's it was either Jesus was a foodie or
Like think about
everybody where he was just like
like
food
food.
was top
No,
priority.
food was actually a really. I mean, everything was around food. Like when you even think about like tithes and offering was like bring the food.
It was food.
It was meat or grain. Um, and I just think about some of the people he hung out with that you just kind of think if he hung out with them in any other place, what would that like? How would he have said, "Oh, Zacchaeus, come, let's meet up after sunrise tomorrow." Like, okay, what are we talking about? Like, it's just it'll be. I think it'll be a bit weird. It's like I'll come to your house to dine, and
Yeah.
I guess maybe it was a cultural thing. I mean, I know the little time I spent in the Middle East that they do love.
Share Quincy is well traveled, guys. Not a little time.
No, but very little time.
Okay.
They do love to share a meal. Like, well, my wife has actually worked a bit in the Middle East, and she talks about how in the morning at work they just kind of set a table and everyone comes around and everyone is eating, and it's just like,
Very communal.
very
Very
communal. It's just such a thing, and of course, we're going by the assumption that Jesus was from the Middle East. So I think it was something, but again, generally, I think food just kind of presents us that opportunity. So dining with Jesus, what am I talking past? Dining with Jesus gives us like that opportunity to connect with Jesus
Mm-hmm.
over the things that over things we find as very essential food, and instead of having that awkward connection with Jesus, where it's like, okay, should I start with my sins or should I start with my strengths or with my
Oh,
weaknesses? It's
okay. So
like,
it's just like chill.
okay, yeah, let's yeah. Right. Then he gets into the conversation with you, and you get to connect with Jesus on a deeper connection basis, but
Mm-hmm.
without feeling the awkwardness of, oh, wow, how am I going to get deeper in
How
the
do I present
connection?
myself?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very interesting. That makes sense. It's like, but then like in a world where Jesus isn't physical,
How do we dine with him?
yeah, is it like more of dining with like dining with people other followers of Jesus.
Or dining with pastors and priests.
You know, I was about to say I've never met a pastor, but that's the way.
Didn't you just say you're a pastor's child?
But when you say priest, I think of like synagogues and like people with like white robes,
Like Catholic priest?
Catholic
I've met
priests.
Catholic priests.
I don't, well, no, that's also like, I haven't like had any sort of like real conversation or like connection with any priest. I've seen them in person before, and like I've said like maybe one word to
See,
someone,
actually, conversation.
but I've never had like any sort of like real deep interaction with like a
No, I
priest.
must have. I went to a Catholic school.
Mm, I
Mm.
didn't.
I wasn't an altar boy though. But yeah.
To read First Corinthians 10:20.
I
Let's
did.
actually just let's go through this and then we'll get into the next segment.
Okay. Absolutely not. However, I'm implying that when an unbeliever offers sacrifice to an idol, this is not offered to the true God but to a demon. I don't want you to be participants with demons.
Hmm. Sorry, what's the context?
I think the context is, I don't know what the context is,
First
but I think it was
So
producer that put it in.
Wait, was it me that put it?
You said
Oh,
you did.
that's true. Let me see.
Oh, it goes on in 21 to say you can't drink from the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons. You can't feast at the table of, that's in verse 21, at the table of the Lord and feast at the table of demons. Oh, that's brilliant.
well,
Is this all of this going in? Okay, super. So, First Corinthians chapter 10 from verse, let's say from verse A. Okay, let's start from verse 14. So it says, "My cherished friends," I'm reading from the TPT translation. "Far away from idolatry, I know I'm writing to thoughtful people, so carefully consider what I say. For when we pray for the blessings of the communion cup, isn't this our co participation with the blood of Jesus?" Basically, our dining with Jesus. "And the bread that we distribute, isn't this the bread of our co participation with the body of Christ?" Again, dining. "For although we're many, we become one loaf of bread and one body as we feast together on the loaf, on one loaf as we dine with Jesus," basically, right? "Consider the people of Israel when they fell into idolatry. Then, when they ate the sacrifices offered to the gods, weren't they becoming communal participants in what was sacrificed? Now, am I saying that idols and the sacrifices offered to them have any value? Absolutely not. However, I am implying that when an unbeliever offers a sacrifice to an idol, it is not offered to the true God but to a demon. I don't want you to be participants with demons. You can't drink from the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons. You can't feast at the table of the Lord and feast at the table of demons." And I think we could end it there. So 14 to 21. So basically, it's saying you can't dine with Jesus and then also dine with the devil, which means it's possible to dine with the devil. And basically, the explanation of what dining with the devil is here is idolatry. And what's idolatry? Doing anything that
putting something above God.
basically,
Yeah.
which makes verse 22 make sense because it says, "Who would ever want to arouse the Lord's jealousy?" Because when you put something above him, um, what you're doing basically is you're saying, well, this is more
Yeah,
important.
yeah. Basically saying that this thing can do more than what
God,
God has already
yeah, it's
done.
more powerful than God for me, and
And that's why I put my value on it.
exactly.
So but like in terms of that's so interesting. So dining with the devil here was them partaking of eating, I guess, the sacrifice that was offered to idols.
No, sacrificing to idols.
Sorry, sacrificing to idols.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm trying to like form a parallel.
So basically, that would mean us dining with Jesus would be us worshiping God, sacrificing to God.
Well, I think there was a bit right. Do not consider the people of Israel. Do not those who eat the sacrifices participate in the altar. Like, is it
Well, what verse is that?
18?
So consider the people of Israel when they fell into idolatry. When they ate the sacrifices offered to the gods, weren't they becoming communal participants in what was sacrificed? Now, am I saying that idols and the sacrifices offered to them have any value? Absolutely not. However, I'm implying that when an unbeliever offers a sacrifice to an idol, it is not offered to the true God but to a demon. I don't want you to be participants with demons. You can't drink from the cup of God and the cup of demons. You can't feast at the table of the Lord and at the table of demons.
So I think what it's saying is that like is when like let's relate it to the right thing to do, like which is, you know, offer sacrifices to God, like being pure in our worship to God. When we partake in that, we become communal participants in what is of God, in what is of
Yeah.
Christ. So it's not necessarily that, oh, when we give up, we're eating from that offering as well.
Yeah, so it's not, so I guess like in this day and age, it's more like of a sense of you can't, like, it doesn't make any sense to um like to worship God, to give to God, to be like part of God's like church community, and then now like still associate yourself with um like with ungodly things or like
Right,
secular things.
right,
um Basically, like, you can't associate yourself with like ungodly things with the assumption that, oh, because I'm a Christian, this means nothing.
yeah,
Because like I've already given myself to God, this means nothing. It's like you're creating like a almost like a dichotomy of like you can't serve two masters. You're deceiving yourself if you think that what's the actions that you're taking outside of Christ is meaningless and is of no value. You're deceiving yourself because you're actually like falling into the sin of idolatry and like slipping down a slope of um at some point you're going to realize that you're going to realize that that thing has come above God's place basically in your life.
yeah. I guess that makes sense. The way someone put it, there's an expression for that. Kind of eluding me right now, but the way someone put it is that what the devil tries to do a lot of the time
Mm-hmm.
is, you know, picture being at the beach, right? And you're just kind of on a little like floater or raft just
I think
by the shore. And if a big wave came all of a sudden, you'd be very aware, very alert. You'd kind of try to respond very quickly and try to get to shore.
yeah,
But what the devil tries to do is to have those little
very like slow, steady.
currents just take you away from the shore.
You don't realize how far you've gone.
And you get to the point where shore is not even visible, or even if it's visible, it's like a very great distance where it's like going to be stressful to have to swim all the way to shore, or you don't even see it at all, and then you don't know what direction to go in, and at that point is when the madness starts. But then you really can't save yourself at that point, and you feel like lost and helpless. Um,
Yeah.
and that's, I guess, you know, what can be taken
So
from this.
it's, yeah, so basically like just don't take for granted how um how the devil moves and how he acts, and don't yeah, just don't take his what's the word, machinations for
Mm-hmm.
granted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
it's very deliberate and intentional with
Yep.
how he
There's plans.
approaches that perspective of things.
Yeah, it makes sense. Something to think about at least. Like, how in your life are you allowing the devil leeway? And how are you the devil, or like your own flesh? How are you allowing your flesh to have leeway and just like small victories? Because somewhere the Bible says something about like having like a leash on yourself to, because it's not flesh and blood you're fighting against. And so it's not like like I've missed this one day but it's fine. It's more like I've missed this one day, how do I not miss another day,
Right.
type of thing. It shouldn't be like, oh, it's okay, or like we shouldn't be like, I guess the word is like a decical about God in our life and about like God's influence and his impacts, because that is how like I feel like I'm talking in parables a lot, but what like that's how like the hedge gets
It's broken.
weaker until it
Okay.
breaks.
But with that thinking, would you say that someone is like, oh, so spiritual that everything that happens, the devil, this is the demon is after me, something like that? Like,
No, it's not about the demon being after. So yeah, the point is like you're not focusing on the demon or a devil. You're focusing on God.
Now you're focusing on yourself.
And so like what the Bible, like what that verse is saying is like rather than like your attitude shouldn't be oh it's fine or oh it doesn't matter. It shouldn't be like crass about it. It should be a you should be focused on God. And it's not like you're not focused on oh or devil is after me or the devil is chasing me. It's how can I chase God more? And like don't don't take don't take god God's influence for granted. If you don't pray, like for example, like me not praying one day is not going to be like oh it's fine, it doesn't matter, God still knows my heart, God still loves me. It should be I want to be in constant communication and communion with God. How can I subdue my flesh to make that happen? Because if my attitude towards praying to God, towards like missing a day of prayer is, oh, it's fine, it doesn't matter, God still knows my heart, it's going to become to a point where I don't even realize I'm not praying anymore.
That makes sense. And actually, looking at it like verse 20 again, where it says, absolutely not. However, I'm implying that when an unbeliever offers a sacrifice to an idol, it is not offered to the true God, but to a demon. I don't want you to be participants with demons. It kind of thinks makes me think about like when we do invite people to church, what do we hope to achieve? It's like, oh well, if you know someone doesn't believe in God and you say, hey, come to church and see if like what we're serving there, and the purpose of that is to hope that when they participate in your um interactions and your sacrifices to God and your communing
Mm.
with God, they would be participants, and because they become participants, they're convicted and start to live that life that you put, like you're trying to introduce them to.
Mm.
What Paul, who writes this book, I believe, is talking about is he's saying, well, when people on the other side do that, and we say, oh yeah, you know what, they're just doing this. I'm just there. I'm not really as much as long as we start to participate, we expose ourselves to being
To entering into that way of life.
exactly to being that participants with demons. Even though we think, oh yeah, we actually serve God with this, but then we are just as the case is when we bring people to our side.
It can happen to you.
So I guess based on what you're saying, it's to focus on ourselves, but then also focus on being influencers rather than being influenced. I mean, obviously not in the context of. I mean, if we can, yes, why not? Social media influence, but
nobody was thinking
Yeah, nobody was
yeah, but I mean, even that too, but be influencers, because if we're not, we're very likely to be influenced, right? And yeah,
yeah, for sure. That's so true.
Mm.
So like I don't like thinking about it because it can get like it's it can get like scary or weird. But yeah, it's important to always be aware that like there's there's things working against and for you.
great.
But yeah,
That awareness keeps you. But I guess in that context, then, if we should stay influencing rather than be in the position to be influenced, should we then be more on the front foot when it comes to ministering to our friends that we know that are unbelievers, preaching
so should we be
to
preaching
them,
more?
at them? Yeah.
I feel like that's actually a question that somebody asked,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll get to that in this next what is it segment. I don't you guys give me an idea of give me here, I need suggestions on we need suggestions on like the name of this new segment. What should we call it? Where like people ask questions and we try our very best to answer them in
Q and A.
in a semi-right, semi-palatable and acceptable manner.
Wait, let's call it the unsafe space of the week.
No, but we're trying to accept people into this room.
Okay, your safe space of the week.
Oh yeah.
Your safe space of the week. Okay, Anyara, what do we have?
Okay,
We can start with that first question that Quincy was answering.
what was it? He said.
You know, but,
Sorry,
yeah.
asking.
He said. What was the question he asked?
Preaching and ministering to people.
Oh yeah. Okay, so someone asked, "How do I share my faith without sounding too preachy?" Does that? Yeah.
So two questions there then. Should
In being
is
like
there anything wrong with sounding preachy
there is nothing wrong per se in sounding preachy, but it's not it does more um like diverting.
than actual pulling in?
Yeah.
So how do I share my faith without sounding preachy?
Oh no, we can start with your first question of like should we be ministering to people?
Should we? Yeah. I asked the question. It wasn't like a rhetorical like, hey, this. Okay, then I answered.
Should we be preaching and ministering? I think I was going to say yes, but then
What does ministering mean?
no, like there's like people have different giftings.
Oh, so you're saying in the place of our giftings, we should minister. So like if you're gifted at like software engineering, we should software engineer yourself into people's Jesus into people's minds.
That's so funny.
That's
But like
social engineering.
it's socially engineer them. But like I think here's what I'll say. Our lives should minister
Minister.
to everybody around us, but then there's like people that are gifted in preaching and like telling people about God. I think like as an average person though, your way of life, how you act, what you say, like what comes out of your mouth, um like your even like your perspective on things should be, because you're called to be different, everything that comes out of you, like your fruit should be different from like the unbelievers fruits. Um people should people should see God in how you act, and they should like one of I guess like the main calling of Christians is to spread the news of God, and like spread um the news of Jesus and what he has done to the rest of the world. And like as believers, that is our main job. However you do it, if it's software engineering that
Mm.
can get you into like people's inner circles and like can get you into communion with them, that's your in. But then it's how you live your life, and um the like what you say to people, how you present yourself to people. All of that I think should point to Jesus. And like people should see you um as how as how like we want God to be represented in the world. We're supposed to be like reflectors of God's like creativity, his power, his love, his kindness, everything. Like so we are here to like show people who God is.
Right. And that actually makes a whole lot of sense. The thing that comes to mind, like as you were saying, it's just like so many things coming to mind, and it just kind of sounds like, oh my gosh, that's so much pressure on me as a believer, and oh my gosh, if everything I do should like be whatever of God. But then I think that's where what you were saying earlier kind of comes in, where it's like the focus should be me and God, me and my relationship with God, or should be God actually first.
Yeah.
Looking on to Jesus as the author and the finisher of our faith, the guy that starts it and the guy that finishes it. Like that's where everything emanates and that's
And
where
everything
everything
is
ends.
wisdom.
Everything that's centered around him.
Yeah.
And with that, it then becomes easier to present with the way you are, with whatever you do, to push, like to just kind of point really to that.
Yeah. So like the idea for me, the picture that I have in my head is Jesus is the author and finisher of your faith. And what that means is literally like everything for me, what I'm picturing in my head is like it's almost like in my life, God is the center. Everything revolves around Him,
Right.
and I am so that's me reaching perfection. Is like I am so in
Orbit.
like into everything, like everything about God, so godlike, so like in tune with Him, that I am now like adopting His characteristics. You know how like you live long enough with somebody and you
You
start
start to
acting
look
like
like
them.
them. Yeah, and
You
you
start looking like them, you start acting like them. It's like I've lived with God and around God so much that like I am beginning to
be.
imbibe like His characteristics. And so like when I move through life, because like I'm imbibing His characteristics,
You just naturally,
emanates like that. This is just
just what
who I
is
am
reflected
now.
from you,
Yeah.
and
But then again, that's like the perfection, and us being like imperfect human beings is like we're striving towards that, but obviously still being aware and not allowing pride and ego to like to drive you into trying to seem like super righteous or super holy, and people can see through that like at a glance in an
right.
instance. You like putting yourself, like the danger of that is like you putting yourself above everybody else because you feel like you are so holy and you are so good and you pray so much and like you do all these things,
That is amazing.
but like yeah, so
That is no for real. That's a really amazing perspective because it's like that's where the balance is. It's okay. Well, on my own end with my relationship with God, I'm trying my best to get as much as I can from Him because He's my source, He's my everything,
yeah,
and I'm trying to please Him in the way I live. Now, because I'm trying to please Him in the way I live, naturally that would come across to other people as me being a
like
good
God,
person.
like Christ, like
So it's not there shouldn't be a point in time where I feel like, you know what, I'm actually really godlike at this point in time, relative to other people. So all of you should bow at my feet and
yeah,
lick the dust or whatever because you're not as good as I am. It's always still like recognizing, well, I'm striving to something, but then because I'm striving to something, I actually reflect good things to other people, not because I want people to think I'm striving to something,
exactly, but
or because I've shown people that I'm striving to something. I have to always show them that this is it. I would remain natural, but I continue to improve because the focus is God, not anyone else. But because I'm aware that I am God's ambassador, God's representative, I still stay conscious. Like even with the things that are, say, weaknesses, things that I'm still working on, I stay conscious of those things so that I don't give other people a wrong impression of, oh, this is how this is supposed to be. It's that like consciousness,
awareness,
awareness.
yeah, yeah.
So I guess the answer to that question, according to
Not
Dane,
quite.
is no. Okay, the answer to that question is yes. You wait. What's the question again? Just so that
Should you
I'm
be ministering to?
with. Oh, how do I share my faith without sounding preachy?
Yeah,
What it is, it's a well. If anyone like, if you get the chance to talk about, is I mean, like earlier we talked about our testimonies, how that came from a place of faith, and now we are experiencing goodness. We can share testimonies. We can share like how we are being transformed. um I know that like so like I, for example, I used to drink alcohol, and I stopped a while ago, and then when I was in Germany, I'd go to places, and Germany is like known for drinking, and I'll go to places and I'm like, oh, I don't drink alcohol, and people would look at me like weirdo. But then I know a couple of people came to me like when everyone else is going like, hi, how did you stop drinking? I've wanted to stop for a long time, and I've just found it really difficult, and I can then share with them. So just to,
like how did you stop drinking? In case anybody is curious.
I decided that I was going to stop. Like, I just know, honestly, it was just like like, I was just like, this is not really helping me. I don't see the advantages to this. And I decided, like, I'm going to try to stop. And it wasn't easy because I used to not be like a, but, yeah, it was something that was normal. I remember when I first said I wasn't drinking, everyone was like, Quincy, are you like,
Oh,
you're joking,
yeah.
obviously. But then everyone just kind of understood after a while, and of course it's not been 100% easy because you go to places and everyone's like, what do you mean you're not? Come on, just
Yeah.
this and that. But I guess the more time I've spent away from it, the more it's like I there's no
The less of a hold.
it has on you. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's not a temptation. You get to a point like, yeah, never. But because I'm aware of the reason why I stopped, it's like there's no point having stopped for over 10 years now to say, okay, you know what, man, let me just try a little bit of a sip. It's just like, yeah, what's there's no
There's no
point.
point.
There's no.
It doesn't do anything
It
for you.
doesn't lead to anything where
Yeah.
it's like, okay, yeah, maybe there's something to look out for. But yeah, I've had people come to me to ask, oh, how did you do it? Because even though people might be castigating you publicly, I remember even from the church I used to go to, like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm having a malt instead. Like, you're drinking bread, and in my mind, I'm like, you're drinking bread too. But like, I would keep to myself because I'm not trying to prove a point to anyone.
Yeah.
Um, but it's those things where it's like your life should be what would preach, not you saying, "Oh, do this or do that," or "You're going to perish," unless God has called you, of course, to
True.
do that,
Yeah.
right? So, where you get the chance to share your faith is in the way you live, and then people would come to you with questions when they see the results that you have,
Yeah.
right? So if you say become a if God has called you to be an entrepreneur and then you're making billions of dollars and you get the chance to speak to people and they ask you and you say, hey, you know what? I cannot even lie to you. It's God that did this to me. That is you preaching, sharing your faith without saying, if you don't give your life to Christ today, you are going to go to hell.
Or like you just being able to hold your own when like everybody's doing drugs around you, everybody's drinking around
Exactly.
you.
Exactly.
Or like you being able to like hold your own and study when everybody's not studying. And yeah, it's like you people tend to they start to realize that you are different and they want to know how, and they
What
want
is
to know
helping you to
what's
achieve
helping
that?
you, how they can be a part of that. That's your opportunity to share
And
God.
I think the important thing to note is, as the Bible kind of explains to us, I can't remember where, but we're all one body
Mm.
and we all have different functions. Some people are like the eyes, some people are like the hands, some people are like the kidney, some people will be unseen, some people will be seen,
The toes.
some people will be the soles of the feet. Everyone just kind of steps on them. I
No,
mean,
they step on everyone.
they step on everyone, but the whole body kind of relies on them stepping on everyone, right?
Yeah.
Um, so everyone kind of has their role, and you preaching doesn't mean you have to be a pastor for anyone to listen to you preach the gospel of Christ. You could be a software engineer, you could be an accountant, you could be a biologist, you could be a what are the
Lawyer.
people that work in morgues?
Mortician.
Morticians. You could be a mortician, you could be whatever, but you living your life through Christ will help you to reflect Christ in whatever it is that you do and give you the opportunity to share your faith without having to preach at people and make people feel like, oh my gosh, without sounding preachy.
Yeah.
And then if you're called to preach, then people that would listen to you anyway.
Cause like I don't know, man. I don't know if this is wrong to say or feel, but like when I pass by people that preach on the streets, I feel weird the same way everybody else feels weird. Like everyone around me.
Yeah, you know what? I would.
Cause I'm just like no, I don't know, I just don't.
I think it's safer not to comment.
Instead,
It's safer not to comment on that because it's as much as we would think, whatever, the people that would hear that, or maybe not even hear that, like, and change immediately, but they hear that and they are in a situation and they remember they heard something somewhere.
no, I mean that's different from like people that are preaching like you go to hell if you don't repent.
I mean, it depends.
I
But then again, it depends on if they're called. Anyway, what I found is some people are called to preach certain things,
yeah,
but because somebody has heard someone preach something else that they were called to preach,
yeah.
they think, okay, well, this is what I should be preaching because somebody else preached that and they were successful. So again, it speaks to
Cause like I don't
staying in
know.
your lane kind of thing.
Yeah, cause like for like we can go to another question, but like for me it's like Jesus never really preached a like you go to hell
Message.
message per se. It's like a renewing your mind message, and it was never really from a place of like fear mongering and more. Cause like I feel like the type of people that like respond to that type of like fear mongering type of preaching. Not even preaching. I don't even know what it is. But like I feel like those people are also the type of people
Would fear, more manga fear.
and also like are I don't know, like you could have been somebody else, like you could have been preaching another god and they would if they're
And they would,
driven by fear,
they would, it would, I get what you mean. It would not matter
it doesn't matter.
what you're preaching.
Yeah. But then I also don't know if that matters or not, as long as like it's God that you're preaching. So I guess that person is lucky.
As long as you get the result. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, I feel safer not to comment on that because, yeah, I guess I don't know. Personally, I share that view with you that I don't think that necessarily would work for everyone, but it might work for some people. Some people don't like that. Ah, renew your mind. Oh, it's like, okay, what does that mean? But then like, you're going to hell. Okay, you know what? Count me in. Like, I don't want to go to hell. So, but yeah, yeah, I guess.
It's like, what is hell? Anyways, what's the next question?
I know that.
The next question is, what do I do when my non-Christian friends invite me to places like the club, bars, for maybe their birthday or to hang out?
Your last face. Why do you look like that?
It's okay. It's okay.
What do we do when our friends invite us to clubs or bars?
I'm trying to think about a way to answer without sounding like, oh my gosh, this guy. Of course, that's what you expect. But the question is, um, what, what, what is it? I mean, of course, the reason they're like when a friend hosts something at a club or a bar, there's a reason why they're hosting it at that spot, right? There's a certain kind of um fun that is had there, and that fun might constitute dining with the devil. I saw this video recently, and I think it was Lecrae talking about the first time it was at one of these like Hollywood parties, and Denzel told him, "You better leave before the devil gets here." And he said he didn't understand it the first time he heard it, but then I think maybe one time he hung around a bit too long and he started to see weird things happen, like really seriously weird things. And I guess the idea with that really is the devil has places that he dines, right? And like we kind of have gone over that. You don't want to be a part of that dining because the truth is once you start to dine with the devil, once you start feasting with the devil, you're not feasting with God really, and you start to drift away from feasting with God, right? So I mean, yeah, it's not to say that, oh well, if your friend invites you to like a birthday dinner or like a thing, you're like, no, yeah, of the devil, I can't. No, it's just really that when you talk about going to a club or a bar, the things that happen there usually are not things that are edifying or glorifying to God, right? And chances are that you are more likely to be influenced. You're certainly not going to go in there and be like, oh yeah, I'm a software developer for Christ, or I'm an accountant for Christ.
I say, please.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying like practically, right? Like I'm like you're not going to be in the club in the corner with all the music playing and then be like, uh meet someone like, what do you think about Christ? Like I didn't hear you. I said, what did you think about? That's not going to happen. I mean, I'm just saying being practical here. And if it really isn't your space, trust me, you're going to go there and going to feel out of place until you start to feel like it's your space.
Mhm.
So if it's not your place, then why are you going there? Unless you really enjoy going to the club or the bar, and then yeah.
Like if you want to be there for your friend.
If you're going to, I've been to a birthday party that was at like a hotel in like a pool, whatever, and not that anything really bad happened there. It was just I was there for my friend, but like 90% of the time I didn't even see my friend. So am I really there for my friend?
Okay, so to play devil's
Devil's advocate.
advocate, even though he doesn't need one.
Devil's advocate. Hey, I'm the devil. But go on.
Um, yeah, like if, like you said, if it's not your space, um, if it's not a space, can't you go for like 20 minutes and be like in and out? Like you're a really good friend of mine. I know you want to party. You also know that this is not my sin. So I'm just going to drop by for like 5 minutes, give you my gift, say happy birthday, and then leave. And if you want me to stay, um
And you have to buy me a drink.
no, if you want me to stay, that's just like a thing that I can't do. And like it's also okay to just be like, no,
That's not my scene. It's just
that's
like
not my
If he's like your best friend, best.
yeah, it's just not my scene.
I
If
don't
you're
know,
my
what if I
best
take you
friend,
somewhere else
yeah, like I'll give you a birthday
another
treat.
day?
Yeah. I'll give you a birthday treat. Like if you're my best friend for real, you're
Then
not
first
gonna
of all,
be
you
doing
probably already know
you should
that.
know that. Like if you're doing that, then you're really just not my friend. Like
You're doing what?
if you're saying, oh, this, and you want to try to guilt trip me that
Oh
I'll have to be,
yeah.
then obviously we're not friends. Like, in fact, how is that my best friend?
Oh, we grew
I
up
mean, it's
together,
possible that
neighbors.
like
Like
you,
I feel like
it's possible that you went that life together and then you changed, and then the other
And
person.
yo, if you've changed, then the person certainly should not continue to be your best friend.
Well, like ties run deep. It's possible. No, like it's possible for you to like have gone through life with that person, and then you just for some reason found Christ, and the person just hasn't yet. But like I think
You
like
should
a
still
good,
be able to explain that.
yeah, a good way to just be. It's for me, and maybe I'm just different, but like for me it's always like I'd rather not lie. I'd rather just be straight up with you and be like, nah, I don't think this is, I'm so sorry, but this is not my sin. How about I do something else for you? Or just like, how about I take you out shopping, whatever you like. How about we have dinner together another day and like have fun? Oh, send me pictures, I don't know, like just so that it's just so you, like everyone around you knows your boundary. Everyone around you should know, first of all, you should have boundaries as to like what you will and won't do. And you also, like hot tip, gain more respect when you enforce those boundaries. And boundaries basically are like what you would not allow yourself to be to do. It's not necessarily like, it's not necessarily to keep people out, but a boundary is like for you to stay true to yourself.
Right.
So like a boundary that, for example, that I would have is like as a hypothetical is like, my boundary is um I'm not I'm not going to, I don't go to clubs anymore because I know what I know who I become when I go to clubs. And if somebody is like, my best friend is trying to get me to go to a club with them for their birthday, it's like, I'm so sorry, I want to be there for you. And low-key, it would actually be fun to go to this club, but my boundary with myself is I am not going to clubs anymore because I know who I become when I go to clubs and like when I put myself in that scenario. So I'm so sorry, but like, I would, how about you do something else? Me self, I low-key highly want to go, but I can't.
That makes sense, and it's easier than giving an excuse. Because if it's your best friend and you're like, oh yeah, I have something else I'm doing today, it's like,
Yeah.
who's your better friend than me? Oh, I was your best friend. But then
I
it also gives you, because you always have to then make excuses every time it comes up. Whereas if you kind of put that out there, hey, this is the life I live now, and I'm trying to avoid the scene generally.
Yeah.
The next time the person comes to you, you know the person is just trying to be a, you know,
And it's also not easy. Sustaining boundaries and keeping boundaries is one of the more difficult things that you can do,
right.
because like human beings are social creatures. Like we want to be part of a circle. And if because of your choices and because of
You
like who
exclude
you are
yourself.
in God, you are now like excluding yourself. That is another layer of stress on top of like this new revelation of Christ that you have. But it's an important thing that has to happen. So yeah,
That's a good question.
that was a really good question.
Um, okay. So next question is, how do you preach to coming back to that one, don't think you're anyway. How do you preach to who's editing this thing? To friends of other faith while remaining respectful to while remaining respectful of their current religious beliefs? So should you be preaching to Muslims to convert to Christianity?
Again, I think it's the same thing. You preach by your lifestyle, and then if they see that, because that's really what it is. I think everyone that has a belief system,
Like if you're not gifted, sorry, with preaching, but continue.
like everyone that has any belief system, whether it's Christianity, Islam, or a way of life, tries to put it on other people, and the best way to get across to them is to show them that, hey, you know what I'm doing is better than what you're doing, and you have more results this way. So I think, yeah, I mean, as much as possible, you want to kind of put your faith out there, like, hey, I do this because I'm Christian. I do that because I'm Christian. I go to church on a Sunday. I do this, I do that. But your focus should be on living that like really good life. Um, in God, trying to please God, trying to, being conscious, being aware, like we said earlier. And when you have Muslims around you, when you have other people around you, they should see that and feel like, oh, you know what, actually, this looks like what I want to do.
I mean, it's also possible for you to be friends with, like, to be friends with a like Muslim that takes their faith seriously,
Yeah,
and like it's possible for them to be even more disciplined than you,
right.
and like even more like in tune with their faith and believing in their God more than you. So like in that sense, how is your life preaching to them?
The interesting thing about that is one could look at it as a challenge, but one could also look at it as an opportunity because it means that if you do get across to them,
Mhm.
you have a very disciplined, very in tune with their faith
Yeah.
kind of Christian,
Yeah.
which is what tends to happen. Not, I mean, not all the time, but usually, right? Um, so I see it more as an opportunity, and again, it's not about, oh, which again is a thing to think about, even for us as Christians, that as much as we think, oh, we go to church every Sunday and I really love God and I don't see any other way because this is what I grew up in, if we're not careful, if we start to dine with the devil, we might find ourselves actually even setting the table for the devil at some point, and
Hello, I'm bringing other
I'm
people.
playing devil's advocate.
Quincy, please,
I'm just,
please,
I'm just joking, but
because
setting the table for the devil, and yeah.
yeah.
So I think it's
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, man. I don't know. I've never really had. I don't think I've had friends of other faiths, so that's not a struggle I've ever had to encounter. But then like for me, if I could picture myself that way, I'm like one of those people where I never really try to convince anybody of anything.
right.
If we're in like a discussion, if the discussion comes up, I can go back and forth with, I used to go back and forth with like even other Christians when I was younger. Now I feel like I don't have the strength. But if the conversation, like if the topic ever came up, then yeah, we can have a discussion. But for me, just like the type of person I am, I don't see myself like I don't see myself like preaching to my Muslim friend or like my atheist friend. I don't, I'm just like you. So maybe something to think about is like, I is this a question you're asking because you feel led to preach? You feel like this is like your gifting to preach to unbelievers? Um, or like where is this one coming from?
Mm.
Or are
Speaking
you doing it just because you feel like that's what you're supposed to do and that's what Christians do and just like to show your knowledge of Christ?
speaking on like not being the kind of person to argue or be in those sort of conversations. I know I've seen people argue, and I'm just like, why are you doing this to us?
I know.
And then you hey, but Quincy, this. I'm like,
My brother in
yo,
Christ.
I don't know. I don't think that's the approach.
Leave me out of this.
I'll tell you what I think, but yeah, but then I'll be like, hey, this, that, and the other, and because at the end of the day, it's really about conviction. I think getting into those arguments is you thinking that
You
you
can
are
convince
the
someone.
one that would convict or convince someone. God does the work.
Yeah, it's never you.
I mean, even Paul, with everything he wrote, he's like, yo,
It's never
Paul
you.
planted, Apollos. Like, we're not, it's not, take the, I can't take the glory, the plaudits for this. Like, it's not me at all. Like,
Yeah.
leave me out of that. It's all God, that sort of thing. And I think first advice I'll say, stay away from arguments. Arguments would push people further away. I mean, even in like your regular relationships, when you're talking about things and it becomes an argument, the person is
They
less
just want to
likely
deal
to
with that.
hear
Yeah.
what you're saying. So just, but if someone asks you about your faith, man, by all means, put it out there. Tell them this is why you do what you do and leave it at that. You're not trying to convince them, you're just putting it out there. You're giving them something to chew on.
And
Food,
like more likely,
food for thought.
more often than not,
Dining with Jesus. Yeah.
Jesus, Quincy. And more often than not, like they would usually come back again and ask another question and like bring up the conversation again, and that's how like it gets, and that's how you know that God is doing something in them,
Exactly.
and like you know that it's not just it's not you, it's never you,
Never.
it can't be because like you are not the one that calls people. God does that. All like you have to do is um all you have to do is be able to reflect God to people in your life, to people around you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. I think the current question already answered the next question, being real with other Christians but censoring yourself around people who you're not sure are Christians.
Let's actually talk about that.
I think it's an interesting one because what is being real and what is centering yourself? What is being real? Like, is being real being like, bless you, sister, and then when you're not among Christian, you're like, hey, Alpha, is that the
No,
switch?
it's like okay, so here is like an example, a hypothetical example. Like let's say for me in my like normal speech, I cuss a lot. But then I only cuss around Christians because
We are real with Christians.
I'm real with
So yes,
Christians.
when you say cuss, you mean
Swear
like your father, or you're going to
that's
die
in heaven.
swearing for you.
No, no, like I use curse words a lot,
Only around Christians.
only around Christians.
That is a very interesting example. And I'm pretty sure that's not what the person meant in that question.
No, never mind.
Because you're more likely to be like amongst your, like, say, co-workers and be like, oh, da, 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 da,
No,
da.
but like
And then around Christians you'll be like, ah, bless you, because you don't want to give the impression to your fellow Christians that you use that sort of
but like
language.
switch it around now. What if like you don't want to give the wrong impression of God to to other people, people that are not Christians?
I've not met anyone that is like that. People are more likely to pretend amongst the brethren, and like, even I think more so now, especially in the kind of situation we're in. Like, I guess in Nigeria, like, more likely to pretend everywhere. But
And then like I repeat the question again.
I am more real with other Christians, but I censor myself when I'm around people I'm not sure are Christians.
Yeah, like you're censoring yourself around people you're not sure are Christians because like you don't want to give people the wrong impression.
no, but what I'm saying is, like, where it usually comes from is like, okay, around other Christians, you're like, oh, God this, oh, Jesus that. You're sharing a testimony. You're talking about, oh,
Oh,
I'm
that's
in
all right.
church.
You okay, okay, okay,
And
okay.
then
Yeah,
when
I
you're
get
on a Friday, when everyone's like, hey, what's everyone doing on the weekend? You're like, yeah, just be at home. Just, yeah.
Oh, I see what you're
And
saying.
your colleagues are like, yeah, I'll be in the temple. I'm going to the mosque. And you're like, oh, yeah, I'm just there. Yeah, not much.
Yeah, quiet night.
I mean, yeah, like, and I've had conversations with people that say, yeah, like, it's just for some reason it just feels like if you talk about being a Christian, if you don't censor that part of yourself, you might get discriminated against. And we're not even in an Islamic country or in a place where Christians are like very heavily persecuted. I know there's like some persecution for Christians. I know, like, in when
Didn't Jesus say something about people that are persecuted in his name?
yeah, so that's where you should be real, like, everywhere. But like, I know in the wake of the discovery of the graves of, children that were in this residential school thing, there were churches that were vandalized and whatever, right? So there's this, oh, you're a Christian, you're one of those people, and it's like, hey, I wasn't even here, when all of that stuff happened. It wasn't my people that did that, but you just don't want to be a part of that smoke, right?
Yeah,
But it's
that specific smoke.
yeah.
So what should you do?
So that's what the person is asking. Are they wrong for?
Are they wrong?
Yeah, is that wrong? Being real and then censoring a bit, like not putting everything out there when they're talking with non-Christians, like not putting out their Christianity like that.
Here's what me for me, there's not a lot of things in life in general that I think is right or wrong. That sounds very diplomatic. But I think it's about perspective. So for me, it's about perspective and like what you value more. For me, I value being like authentic over a lot of things and like saying what I mean, meaning what I say. I value that above everything else. But then I also say that knowing that like there's people that's like that that actually like have real consequences happen to them that me I may not have experienced. I don't think I've ever been discriminated against because I'm Christian.
So maybe it's
So like maybe I would be different if that happens to me. But um for me I would rather be more like I'd rather be authentic about who I am in every circle,
situation.
whoever I find myself, like wherever I find myself in. And if like I'm at work, for example, and they ask me how my weekend went and I had something in church, I would be like, oh, church was actually really cool. We had a gala, that type of thing. Um, so that's just like what I would, but then I don't think in terms of like, are you wrong for not for censoring yourself? I don't know if you're wrong, but I think you should think more about what you value more. Do you value being accepted by non-Christians more than um than showing the light of God in your life and God's influence in you? Do you value that more?
Right. I mean, you don't have to go into details and say, oh, yeah, we washed feet in our church on the weekend, or we had communion. It was great. Like, you don't have to go into those sort of details because, like, I know I hear Muslims talk about, oh, yeah, yeah, they might say, oh, yeah, we've got mosque tomorrow or whatever, or yeah,
Yeah.
or Juma, whatever they call it, yeah. But they're not going to tell you, oh, we did the Allahu Akbar like 12 times.
Yeah.
Just going to they just are open about it. Give the information that is like sufficient for you to know. But I guess the least you can do is say, hey, I was in church, or I will be in church, and that sort of thing. Yeah, feel feel free like with that because there really isn't anything to lose because how do Paul put it? For me to live is Christ and to die is gain.
Okay.
So there's a lot to gain. I know it sounds a bit like but yeah,
Yeah, man.
this
Like
life is so temporary.
it's
Plus, you know that I think about it, I actually don't censor myself. Like, if my coworkers ask me, "Oh, what are you doing this weekend?" I always say, "Well, I have something at church. This is that at church." Like, wow, I'm happy for myself. Oh my god.
a shape pat on the back.
So pastor in the make.
Amen.
She said amen.
Okay, next question and the last question for today is: should I hang out with the LGBTQ community as a Christian?
I mean, how do you know they're LGBTQ?
Or hanging out? Do you mean like, oh, um, you have a group of friends and one of them just happens to be an affiliate and you guys do things together, or um, the LGBT community is doing something, they're having a parade or whatever, and you're like, you know,
As
flying
an
the flag
ally.
for them, and you're
Yeah, something like that. Like, should I, as a Christian, be going for like the pride parades? Oh, as an ally, this I have about two, three friends that are part of this community. Let me go with them and just like
support
wave
them,
their
yeah.
flag, yeah. And or something like, let's say we have like an event or like a double date or a triple date or whatever it is, and then your LGBTQ friend decides to bring her partner, and as to like every other person. So that's kind of like the hanging out
Hmm.
in that context, like, and let's say it's like an every weekend type of thing. Let's say we're neighbors, like you guys, and then you just go out and then
That's a like, I don't know. I think that's like
Have you ever been friends with someone in the LGBTQ community?
like when you say someone in the LGBT community, do you mean someone that identifies
Everybody.
anyone that identifies as anything on that
Yeah.
spectrum? Yeah, friends. Yeah, I've known people like that were very much a part of that community. Yeah.
I don't think I have. I
Mm.
mean, I don't know a lot of people in general. So
She says she doesn't know a lot of people in general.
yes.
oh, like I thought, well, like still wow, because like
You do?
a lot.
So, like, what are your thoughts?
What do you mean? Fucking
She's just sitting on the crowd.
No, I just want to get your thoughts, like the Gen Z perspective.
Abby.
Honestly, I feel like hanging out with them is not yeah, something that you should stay clear. I mean, they don't have some sort of disease or something. They're still
Mm-hmm.
human beings like us too.
Yeah.
So I feel like, let's say if we're doing an event at school and they're the ones hosting it, and let's just say sponsored by the LGBT, like, I will hang out with them. I have a few friends that are also part of the community. So yeah, it's kind of not something that I think about. Oh, this person is LGBTQ. As a Christian, should I talk to the
Yeah,
person?
like
Should I play with the
it
person? I
seems
just feel
like
like,
a lot of mental gymnastics.
yeah, like I
It,
mean,
it,
you just
that's
be
what I think. Like, I think it's the sort of thing where if you like, one of the things I have a philosophy about is like, if you have a conviction about it, like, there's a reason you'd have a conviction, right? Like, oh, this, and maybe it might be, for example, that you feel that if you hung out a lot with part of the community, that you would feel inclined
to
to certain things, right? That would take you away from your faith. And then it won't be because, oh, you're, because I think where I would like for people to be careful is to not think that, oh, because I'm a Christian and I have these values, I'm a better human being than
Anybody
everyone
else?
else or anyone
Yeah.
else, any
Mm.
group or whatever. So it's like where I kind of look at it from is okay, this okay, why am I not hanging out with them? Is it because if someone from the church saw me with them, be like, ah, you, and then it's not really,
Hero.
yeah, it's not real. Then you're deceiving yourself, right? Because in your mind you really want to be there, and you're like, oh God, I wish I could be there. And God is like, I mean, who said you couldn't be there? But and I guess maybe we can look to Jesus, right? uh, and a lot of people that he hung out with were people that the Pharisees and the Sadducees were like, "Yo, what are you doing with these people? These are not the people that we hang out with when we're this cool, right?" And Jesus is like, "Yo, I'm not trying to be cool like you. I'm cool already because I'm the Son of
cool
God."
already.
Do you get like? And it's like, yeah, this. But
Like
then
sexism.
again, if there is something like if God is speaking to you, say, hey, I think, yeah, you're doing a bit too much because the more you are in this kind of thing, the more you might be influenced by this, then you should be, careful. And that's maybe where the thing would be like, it shouldn't be a thing where like you're thinking, oh my gosh, if someone sees me here, or oh, I know these people, I mean, they are this, and the Bible this. Because if you say, oh, should we, if like the question is, should we hang out with LGBTQ? Then the question should be, should we hang out with people that are dating and are living with their partners? because that's in the same kind of, in my opinion, like where God talks about where the Bible talks about homosexuality, he also talks about fornication and adultery. So if you know someone has fornicated before, then should you hang out with them? Like, are you going to then be thinking? I mean, then you
Yeah.
wouldn't hang out with anyone,
Yeah.
right? But then maybe the question is, okay, what? That's why I asked, what's the meaning of hanging out, right? Is it, oh, these are your closest friends and you do everything with them? Then you might be setting yourself up for, a different kind of life, right? Because you are very likely going. I mean, that's what human beings are, influenceable, right?
Yeah.
But if it's, oh, you have someone and they're doing something and blah, I mean, or they have a birthday dinner and
I mean, but like if it's like a parade, like a pride, or if it's like a pride parade or a protest, or
I mean, the question is, if you're going to a pride parade, what, like, is understanding the objective of the pride parade. What's the objective of the pride parade?
Fighting for their rights.
So are you fighting for their rights?
I guess so.
Okay.
I mean, because it comes the same human rights, so not be killed.
Like,
Not, I mean, not to not be killed.
So what's
what are the, wait, let me even actually think about it.
And I guess that's where the question is.
Yeah, like, cause like for them to be accepted, I
to be
guess,
accepted,
for them not to be
discriminated against?
stigmatized, and like maybe the way black people were like
Black BLM.
yeah. So how would
Do
I
you go
put
to a
it?
BLM
Did
parade?
you say me? I'm afraid of
See,
That
all
and
all these
that's
things.
no, but
exactly.
like if you're the type of person that would go for a
Go for
BLM parade, for
Yeah,
example.
but then if you would, but then yeah, then if you would, but again, so it's, I guess it's difficult to kind of give a, like, I don't know. I just think that it will be like if um what is something else that is considered like sin in the Bible and blah. Because it's not like we're any of us is above sin, but it's like,
The liars.
yeah, it's like if there's a prayer that, people should be able to lie and this and you don't go and gender, me too, I believe this. Like, do you get what I mean? It's not like it is a way of life. It's like if someone did a parade that, we should be able to have sex with whoever we want, regardless of whether we're married or not. Like, just do whatever we want. Then it's like, yeah, I mean, that's a basic human right, but it basically contradicts what we believe in. So it's not like something that we should now go out there and be like, yo, do whatever you want. But then
That's true.
it's like, then what side do you really stand on? That's why I said, what does hanging out mean? Like, oh, there's someone that identifies that this, and then the person is, setting up their art foundation and they're doing something. Of course, you can go support them. They're human beings, and you should show them love or whatever. Or you're having a birthday party and you know someone and you invite them. Yeah, definitely. Why not? You can dine with them, but you should be conscious of the things that you believe in and be sure that you're not contradicting yourself, like in terms of, hey, I believe in, unless you don't, and then really you're not, then you're not really, Christian. But then there are a lot of things that, again, we shouldn't then, there shouldn't be a higher priority put to the LGBTQ community because a lot of people have spoken against them. If you're going to speak against the LGBTQ community, then you should have that same energy, that same passion, that same intensity when you talk about fornication, adultery, everything that's contrary to God.
Yeah.
But there are people that are okay with worshiping money in so many different ways. But then, LGBT is like, oh my gosh, you have done the absolute worst
Throw them
thing
away.
in the world. But then,
Throw them
when the
away.
Bible even talks about serving two masters, it's talking about money
Yeah.
and, and God, which means it might even be worse to worship money than it might be to this. But that's be worse. But then there's no lesser sin or greater sin, right? So that's like
Project said blasphemy,
aha, that's my own like perspective on this. Is That's why I said, what does hanging out mean?
Mm.
But then again, one should be. That's why I say one should be very conscious again of like, oh my God, and what are my convictions from God, and the things where God will tell you, I think you should draw the line here because He's going to put thoughts in your head and it's going to make you struggle in your faith. So why are you putting yourself through that? And it might not just be like, if we ask the question, then it kind of sounds like we're saying, oh, because of the LGBT. No, it could even be simple things like there's some people that don't believe that there's anything wrong with drinking, for example. and it doesn't take away from their faith. You know, they don't have a conviction on it yet, but then you have a conviction on drinking, and then you decide, you know what, I'm still going to drink because my very Christian friend also drinks, and you're killing yourself. I mean, the Bible says if your right eye causes you to sin, cut it off. Like, just whatever would take you away from your faith, try to stay away from it. Like, it's very good to err on the side of caution. Just kind of stay more on the side of God, and then when you have the
Literally, like
strength,
flee from all appearance of evil.
when you get that confidence, then this, because I mean, yeah, that's yeah, I would say less from this point.
Yeah, I agree with what you said.
Well, you guys, worshipping money, like you said, if somebody wakes up every morning and not the first thing, let's say the second, third thing they do is check their bank balance, and that's like an everyday thing, is that worshipping money?
That's an obsession.
It depends.
That's an unless
It
like
depends.
unless you're waiting for money to come in.
It depends. I think it depends on where you are money wise, like financially. Because if
Oh yeah, okay, no, in the assumption that like we are all like
very well off,
not
not
very
very
well
well
off,
off,
but
but
like we can afford to
comfortable.
eat,
It's
we
drink.
have a place to stay, we can pay
Exactly.
our rent, like we're fine.
Exactly.
That's like the assumption.
Yeah.
But then no, if you're struggling, I mean, I don't know what money will do for you. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know what's like. I don't know what
Checking the
Sorry.
balance every morning will do for you. It doesn't change anything.
it doesn't change anything. And like if there's not no money there, that's like
See yourself through.
for the rest of the day, you probably are better off checking before you go to bed at night. So like at least your day has gone at the end of
And
it.
you can, yeah. But yeah.
Sip it off. But like so for me, I would know that I'm beginning to worship money um if
You trade your values in God
I
for
can't have
things.
I can't have peace of mind without it. Like I can't have I'm constantly thinking about how I can make more than I already have. I'm never like comfortable where I am. Um even though like I keep consciously like moving the goalpost of, oh, let me, when I earn this amount then I'll be fine. When I earn this amount
Really off.
then I'll be fine. Um for me that's like how I know. And yeah, like trading trading God trading God's place for money is like, for example, rather than here's a controversial question.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than going to church on a Sunday, um would it
I don't know. I think that's a question of convictions again. I think it's a conviction thing because the things that, like, sometimes, something can come up, right? But then if yeah, I mean, I'm that's assuming that you're asking if it's okay to work on a Sunday
yeah, if it's okay to work on a Sunday, like consistently.
consistently. I think it depends on what your convictions are. Like, the things that, like, go beyond one's, power or whatever, like what one can control.
If you
Um,
can't control it,
if you can control it and you're
but
just,
it means you earn more money.
then that might be an idol. Like, it's like, oh well, I can work every other day, but Sunday I'll make double. You know what? God, you understand? I'm going to bring the tithes. Don't worry. I'll pay it via
Well,
Interact, or it, you're
cash.
deceiving yourself, really,
Yeah.
because it's like God wants that fellowship with you. But then again, there are
I
people
mean, you
that,
can fellowship with God in your
I mean,
house.
that's what I was just gonna say. Like, there are people that come every Sunday and they don't even have a fellowship. They're just there for whatever reason.
Why are you shaming me?
Don't say that. No,
I
but I'm just
still me.
no, but I'm just saying.
Right here.
What do you mean? No, but
Jesus.
yeah, that
Parents are going
is.
to church, oh.
There's even that, but then, like, I think
Okay, okay, okay.
we've come to the end of this month's conversation.
Yes. Hope you guys had
Are
fun.
we supposed to ASMR that too?
Hmm?
We've come to the end of this month's. Oh, sorry, this makes no like. Can you say?
Yes.
to the end of this month's conversation. You enjoyed talking to us. It's been Quincy and
Deinye. See you next month.
What's that sign?